City Municipality, and of course this is the Eastern Cape stop on the SAFM election broadcast. And as you can hear in the background, parties represented here, and I'm just going to quickly run through some of them. But before I do that, just by way of background in terms of the elections as we near the May 8th poll, 48 political parties will be represented in the upcoming election. And of those, of course, some of them here in the Eastern Cape, more than previous years as we had seen. So in the Eastern Cape, 26 parties, that's the number of parties that have registered to contest the May 8th polls in this province. And that's up from 8 in 2014. And as the crowd starts to settle down, we're going to try and get into this debate as speedily as we can, given the number of parties represented. Let me just indicate at the onset the parties that I do not see here that were invited. And I can see Cope not here. Is COPE here? Not here as yet. So that's the Congress of the People, and also the Socialist Revolutionary Workers' Party. They were also invited to participate. Unfortunately, not here as yet. We'll see how this plays out, whether we will be able to accommodate them as we proceed. But we're not going to wait, because time and the hour, as they say, waits for no one. So let's move on. And I'm going to ask our panelists to please introduce themselves. I'm going to give you 1 minute and 1 minute only, given the myriad of issues that we'd like to get into and the fact that time is really going to be of the essence, as I decide to pull out my phone, because I'm going to time you to make sure that I give you 1 minute and 1 minute only to give us your opening statement, and of course tell us what it is that you believe you can do or bring to better the lives of South Africans here in the Eastern Cape. So for the benefit of those of you at home, remember you can stream, live stream as well if you want to watch what is unfolding here at the Orient Theatre. SABC News Online, that's where you can follow us online, and of course this broadcast will run until 1 o'clock on SAFM on the FM band, that's on the radio, and then we will continue with the live streaming online, and that's how you can get in touch. If you want to send us a message, because everybody's listening across the country, then I suggest you best use, if you can, my Twitter handle at Sakina Kamwendo, simply because I have instant access to that. Anything else may take a little while. So Sakina Kamwendo, but of course our regular contact details, and that would be 3401. That's our SMS line number, and you can of course also get in touch via Twitter and Facebook at Update at Noon. So that's how you can get in touch and participate from home. But of course, for everybody here, you will have an opportunity as well, and we'll try to get into that as soon as we possibly can. So let's just start. I'm just going to run through the parties we have with us this afternoon. On my extreme, or let me start on my right and move it to the other extreme, and then we'll move it back from there with your opening statements. So I've got the UDM, I've got the SRWP who are not here, the PAC, EFF, the DA, COPE that's also not here, AZAPO, ATM, ANC, and AIC. And then AIC, you're up first. Just give us your name and your 1 minute in which to make your opening remark.
My name is Pagamila Samela. I'm representing the AIC. Good afternoon to all listeners throughout the 9 provinces of the country. The AIC, if given a chance to govern, will provide you with a government system that is not superseding the will of the people, but underpinned by the aspirational people of South Africa. Because as the AIC, we believe to social democracy, where the voices of the people are heard and given the first preference. As the AIC, if given a chance to lead, will provide you with a leadership that is above reproach, a leadership that respects the Constitution of South Africa, a leadership that respects the rule of law. If given a chance, will not tolerate corruption, because corruption collapses the economy of the country. If there are people that are suspected of wrongdoing, they will be investigated by the law agencies.
Thank you so much. That's your minute. Let's move on to the ANC.
Good day, Sakina. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Good day to the leadership of the ANC, wherever you are, volunteers of the African National Congress, members of the ANC, leaders of the African National Congress, volunteers of Walter Sisulu, volunteers of OR Tambo, volunteers of Lutuli, volunteers of Krisani, volunteers of Mandela. Good day, everyone of the African National Congress. We are here at Orient Theatre as the African National Congress to provide, because the African National Congress over the last 25 years has provided basic services to our people, basic infrastructure, has delivered quality service to our people. The African National Congress, as the oldest liberation movement in the African continent, has produced a number of quality leadership of the African National Congress. It is a tried and tested organization that is known throughout the world and throughout the country and throughout the continent of Africa. It has provided quality service to our people. It has brought liberation to the people. It is a liberator of the people. It has produced leaders that have been tried and tested over many years of the African
Thank you.
National Congress.
Let's move
Thank you
on
very
to
much.
ATM.
My name is Nato Chekom, representing the African Transformation Movement. The year 2019 is very crucial in the history of South African politics. It is crucial because of one thing. 25 years after the promises that were made, the democratic elections are still remaining the same, and to some instances, they have worsened. It is also crucial simply because South Africa has become a modern colony of the West. What is incredible in the 25 years of democracy is that the situations of the lives of the people in our country have remained the same. It is for that reason that the African Transformation Movement becomes relevant in this instant. The core values of the African Transformation Movement are peace, Ubuntu, transformation, accountability, and of course, servant leadership. If you vote for ATM, of course, we are reviving the dignity of mankind in our country, because after 25 years, the situations of our people remain the same. Therefore, the African Transformation Movement will ensure that it revives and implements the services.
ATM, moving straight along. Azapo, you're up.
Thank you very much, Sakina. We want to greet all our people out there. Not just our structures, we are about our people, so we want to greet fellow Azanians. Azapo needs no introduction. We have been part of the revolution. We are the movement of Biko. We have died for this country. We are an organization of truth. What we offer in these elections is an organization of truth, an organization that told you in 1994 that you have been set up, an organization that told you that there is no freedom without land, an organization that refused to go with the euphoria of the time. So we stand in front of you still with the promise that our manifesto, what we will deliver, is embedded in the restoration of the dignity of our people. We are saying, if you are tired of staying in houses that are like pigsties, small houses worse than apartheid houses, if you are tired of those, here is an alternative. It is the Azanian People's Organization. We would build you decent houses.
Thank you, Azapo. The Democratic Alliance. I've got you. I'll give you your time. Okay, please go. I said I'll give you your time, Mr. Banga. Continue. Thank you. That's your time, Democratic Alliance, the Economic Freedom Fighters.
Fellow South Africans, as the EFF, our emphasis on this election is on land and jobs. Now, the emphasis on now is informed by the fact that we have witnessed that political freedom without economic freedom is meaningless. The emphasis on now is informed by the fact that reconciliation without justice is an empty gesture. The emphasis on now is also because our people live in abject poverty. Similarly, the emphasis on now is because our people are jobless. Yet again, the emphasis on now is because the crisis of racialized poverty, inequality, underdevelopment, landlessness, and joblessness are being experienced now and must be resolved now. We demand the economy now.
Thank you, EFF. And let's move on to the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania. Okay, just hold on there, PAC. Let's try UDM. Let's go. Let's give you a go while we try and sort out PAC sound. UDM.
The question being asked here is...
Okay, just hold on. My apologies there to everybody listening and everybody here. Just trying to sort out those little gremlins in the sound. And as we do that, just running through the list of parties with us here again today. We have to our extreme left there, we have the AIC, we've got ATM Azapo, and then we have COPE is not here. We have, did I miss the ANC? We have the DA, the EFF, PAC, and of course UDM. All right, let's try PAC again.
The PAC is a party of land and revolution. The basis of struggle is the return of the land of the African people to the African people. The basis of struggle is therefore to ensure the collective control of that land. We do not want land to be controlled by few black elites. We want the land to be controlled by the African people collectively. The second issue the PAC will be focusing on is the education, because education and the control of land is linked directly and they are inseparable. If you have education systems controlled by the bureaucrats and the corporatocrats, you can't resolve the problem of liberation. That's why we have said a long time ago, education for liberation. Land and education go together. The final issue is that of corruption. The essence of corruption is that it is controlled largely by political class, the political class and the political elite, the capitalists. To end corruption, you must end capitalism, period.
Thank you, PAC. And UDM.
The question that is being asked here is, what are we going to do if we are elected into power as the UDM? That is the question. The time to criticize will come. The manifesto of the UDM emphasizing on the following. One, clean governance. We talk about clean governance in the UDM. We talk about quality health care. We talk about a world-class education. We talk about rural development, emphasizing on agricultural economy. We talk about fighting crime. We talk about investment in the country. These are the issues and other issues that if UDM is elected into power, it will emphasize on. The issue of jobs that are needed much by the people of South Africa are much spelled out in our manifesto. And we are saying the people of South Africa on the 8th of May must vote for the United Democratic Movement to realize our dream of a clean governance.
That's your time. All right. So there we had the opening statements from all the parties. And now we get into some of the issues. And the first one I want to pick up on in the Eastern Cape, because this is a broader discussion on the province and not just this particular municipality, is of course the question of urban migration. This province, more than any other in the country, has seen people moving from here to other provinces. And of course, I think we can get into what the reasons are. But I want to hear from all of these political parties, what is your view on urban migration and the factors that are actually contributing to this? Let me start with the AIC.
I think there are a number of reasons concerning that. First of all, there is no system in place presently with the present government to provide jobs for the jobless.
One.
Please continue.
to provide jobs for the jobless. Secondly, in the Eastern Cape, there are factories that are closed. And the present government promised people that it will open those factories, and those factories are still closed. What we'll do as the AIC is to open the factories that have been closed by the present government, so that those who are leaving the country will come back and work on the factories in their own place where they live or reside.
AIC, which factories were closed by the government? Which factories were closed by the government?
Come again?
You said factories that were closed by the government. Which are those?
The factories in Timbaza, they have been closed, they are being vandalized. The factories in Fort Jackson, they've been closed, they are vandalized, and the people, because of that, they've lost their jobs. And that has created what we have now, a high rate of unemployment in the Eastern Cape.
So you say those factories were closed by the government, not by the private sector owners who run them, but by the government.
When the ANC took over in 1994, those factories were eventually closed. And just recently, the mayor of Buffalo City promised people that they will reopen those factories, affirming that they've been closed by the present government.
All right, ANC, respond to that, please.
Thank you very much, Sakina. Look, if we're to locate the context of the urban migration in the context of South African history and politics, it should be located within the context that in the apartheid spatial development, the apartheid designed South Africa in terms of what was called then the periphery and the center. Centers of development were four in South Africa. It was Johannesburg, Durban, Cape Town, and Port Elizabeth. All other areas in the context of South Africa were periphery from the center. So that's how apartheid government designed development. So it was skewed to where the white population lived. All the areas that were resided by black people and other racial groups were not developed. So we're coming from that history. So it must be understood within a historical context that all other places in South Africa were never developed. It was a deliberate, conscious effort to make sure that especially places where black people lived are underdeveloped. So we're coming from that history. So it must not be as if after 1994 we took over a country that was more violent what was running. It was almost a country in collapse, country that was almost bankrupt. We're coming from that context. Now coming closer to the question.
That was almost bankrupt.
Yes.
How come you didn't
Now,
tell us this in 94?
President Mandela made it in
1994
1994 that the country does not have money. But coming to the question, because we're in the debate here, we must come to the question that you're asking. The African National Congress, through its policy, has developed what is called an industrial revolution, revitalization strategy, which in the main, if you look around here, we've already developed more than 50 new factories through the special economic zone in Buffalo City. We have developed more than 50 new industries in Port Elizabeth, what is called Kucha. Those factories alone, they are new. They've employed more than 2,500 job opportunities. It is true, Sakina, that the factories in Timbaza and the factories in Butterworth and the factories, when the African National Congress took over, remember those factories were run in the main by the Indian companies, some by the Chinese companies. After 1994, because of the labor issues, the labor laws that came into being after the African National Congress, because those people were suppressed by the owners of those factories, they were closed. But through the industrial strategy of the African National Congress, those factories now are in the process of being revitalized, be reopened, be renewed, so that people can start to utilize them. We've already started to open more than 5 factories in Timbaza. We're going to Fort Jackson to open new factories. We're going to Port Elizabeth, to Butterworth to open new factories. The African National Congress is developing industrial strategy. We're further moving to rural areas where we're doing a rural development, something that has never been there for the last 300 years of the rule of the apartheid. Since the African National Congress took over, we're revitalizing, we're developing the entire country of South Africa through the policies of the African National Congress, whether rural, whether urban. There's nothing called center and periphery in the African National Congress. All people are equal wherever they are. They must be developed. They must be given services. They must be given free electricity, free basic
Well,
services, free water, and
evidently-
everything else that is supposed to be given. So that is African National Congress. We're developing the entire Republic of South Africa.
Evidently, you still have the problem because people are still moving away from the vastly rural Eastern Cape. So how successful are those programs?
It is true, Sakina. Hence, I located the migration of people within the historical context. You'll get a situation, for instance, in the Eastern Cape where you'll get most of the mining companies taking people from Eastern Cape to work in the mining industries in the whole country. That is a historical context.
And we all
now,
understand
I'm
that.
saying to you, through the industrial strategy of the ANC that we've developed over the last 15 years, we are saying people must be developed where they are to curb the migration.
I'm asking
Even
you,
in rural, even
how successful has
It
that
is successful.
been? How successful has it been over the last 15 years? Because you still have people migrating in large numbers out of the
Sakina,
province.
in the whole world, you can't stop the issue of migration. Migration is a world phenomenon, it's a global issue. It cannot be about South Africa. All I'm trying to say is that we are developing rural areas, we are developing township economy, we are developing urban areas so that people can be developed where they are to stop the issue of the migration.
Okay.
Migration has declined.
All right.
However, I'm saying
I'm
to
gonna
you,
move on.
because of the historical context, we can't divorce the fact that South Africa had a periphery and a center, but ANC government is developing people wherever they are, and whether rural, whether urban, people are being given services to.
And I think what's going to happen is that we will go to the floor and people will bring their views about just how successful that program has been, just how the spatial development of the country has changed over the past 25 years. But ATM, let's hear you. ATM?
Thank you very much, Sakina. And I'm glad that you posed the question. The ATM are the people of order. We stick to what is asked and we elaborate accordingly. One, the Eastern Cape prides itself with being the home of legends. However, we continue to lose people in this province, as you pose, migrating to seeking for greener pastures. One of the core reasons to this is the lack of unemployment, the unemployment issue. It is the lack of financial support to upcoming businesses of young people and ordinary other people. It is also the problem of seeking greener pastures in other areas. Two, the Eastern Cape prides itself being the longest, having the longest coastline, but that is not utilized to the advantage of this province. That is why you'd find then people moving out, because the employment opportunities that we have in the province are not utilized to benefit the people. Hence, people would leave to go and seek employment elsewhere, to go and study elsewhere, because one of the reasons, even when students have to be admitted in Wits University in Gauteng, from Eastern Cape, there is an issue because it is said that the Eastern Cape has poor quality of education. So one of the core reasons that people migrate, leave the province, it is poorly managed, our province.
Okay, and I think, whether people agree or disagree with that is entirely up to them. But the question is, where is the solution? Because interestingly, you've garnered 30% of the vote in Nyandeni Ward 21, which did surprise many people. So many people are expecting you as the ATM to have a good showing. I don't know whether one swallow a summer makes, but you are expected now. Suddenly you've caught the attention of many as the ATM. So what are some of the solutions to the problems that you identify?
The reason why we attract so much people across the country and vastly in the province, it's because people have no hope anymore in any other party in South Africa because they've been let down. More particularly with the leading party, which is the ANC, that has let down the people of this country. The reason why we do so much attention...
But what is your solution?
The solution
you spoke about education. You spoke about unemployment. What are your solutions as the ATM?
Greatly so. One, look, it is to ensure the implementation of what is lacking in our people, the jobs, creating opportunities in every aspect of life, both in education and curbing crime. Here in a province, we have a problem in the rural areas where the infrastructure that is supposed to be managed properly is not managed properly. People die because the ambulance does not arrive to pick up a reported sick person in time because of infrastructure. Whereas there is a great budget in this province that is allocated to ensure we develop rural areas and township areas. So the ATM is certain that is going to ensure that we implement, we use effectively the budget that is allocated to develop the rural communities, unlike the current government that gets the allocation of budgets in the province, but our province remains the same, regarded as the poor across the country.
Okay, Azapo.
Thank you, Sakina. We certainly agree with the ATM that we need to pray for this province. This province needs prayers. Sakina, part of the problem is that we have a ruling party that does not understand rural development. These factories that they are talking about are still in urban areas. They do not resolve the migration from rural areas to urban areas. Now let us look at factors that are causing this. Firstly, there's no infrastructure. Indeed, there are no roads to go to these rural areas. If you go to Kolobeni, there are no roads, there's no electricity, there is nothing. So there can be no development in those areas. People in our rural areas, we are importing solutions that are meant for urban areas. People are farmers, but there's no subsidy for farmers. There's no assistance. There's no agro-processing. Whatever they are producing is for subsistence because we are not business-minded. As Apo says, build cooperatives. Employment is not always a solution. Yes, we need employment, but build cooperatives in these rural areas. People are consuming bread in the rural areas. Why don't you have cooperatives of people who live there, who produce the bread? I was in a village next to Fort Beaufort, where the people who are doing these windmill things have contributed to the community equipment to the value of 290,000 to buy the bread producing equipment. Now we need public and private partnership to build cooperatives so that people work for themselves. They create employment out of things that are happening in their area.
Because it isn't actually government's job to create jobs. It is the private sector's prerogative to create jobs, but government needs to create the conditions that will allow that to flourish. But when you say there are no roads, there is a capital expenditure budget. So what do you mean there are no roads?
Buffalo City, where we are, returned to Treasury over 300 million rands in this financial year. There is no proper expenditure. The focus is on urban areas. You go to many rural areas in the Eastern Cape, despite that budget, there are no proper roads. Ambulances are unable to go. Our people are driven in wheelbarrows to clinics. Even if you develop the clinic, there is no road to go to the clinic. So despite all the empty promises that we are getting from the ANC and the budgets and the statistics, the realities of our people out there is that there is nothing happening in rural areas. There is no reason to stay there. Young people, it's like torture camps. Young people can't wait to qualify and live.
But the ANC is saying they are doing well there. They have started bringing in projects. They are doing something in the rural areas. Are you disputing what the ANC is saying?
Go to these areas. I don't have to dispute it. Go to these areas. There is no evidence of what the ANC is professing here.
Okay.
And it's not just rural areas. The ANC is doing bugger all anywhere.
All right, the Democratic Alliance, what's your solution to the urban migration problem? And I think someone made the point that, yes, it is a global phenomenon and that we can't get away from. But however, people don't move because they necessarily want to move. They move because they have to move, because they are going to bed hungry. I was reading through a survey earlier on this particular province where they found out, and this is a survey that they do between 2 census periods, just to check what's happening. And it indicated that almost 500,000 people in this province skip a meal at least once a day. People go to bed without eating. So people migrate because of these various factors that exist, not necessarily because something is pulling them from the urban area. So what's your solution to it? Continue.
The Statistics General in his report puts it the same issue that for the past 25 years, the ANC government has not been able to deal with the issue of the apartheid spatial transformation. Therefore, it's a big problem. It can't be an excuse that apartheid caused this. They've got 25 years to deal with this. Let me tell you. What has happened in the Eastern Cape alone is that they've destroyed good historical education facilities, our schools and schools that produce education. The Eastern Cape was the best institution that was producing the best graduates, who produced presidents who came and studied here. Those institutions have been destroyed by the government.
When you say those institutions, can you be specific? Are you talking about institutions of higher learning? Are you talking about schools? Because this province, more than any other, has a serious problem with school infrastructure.
I'm telling you, our schools, our children, more than 400 schools, which they promised long time ago that they're going to eradicate mud school. Our children still study under mud schools. Our children still die because of pit toilets. I was in Lusikisiki, a child died because of pit toilets. I went to a school in Lusikisiki where they built 3 toilets for 15 million rand. I went there to expose that because the money of the people here is not going to the services. It's going to the pockets of politicians. In all sense, in Ingo, a hospital has not been having water and electricity for 3 days. I just got that report. I'm telling you, Sakina, the infrastructure here in this province has not been maintained. One of the problems of the ANC government is that it does not service its infrastructure. Go to Umtata. I was telling to you about Umtata. Umtata was an economic hub of the former Transkei and Butterworth. What they've done, they've neglected the roads. Businesses had to run.
But as the Democratic Alliance, you are now in that unique position where you, as in the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, are actually in government in coalition with other parties. So what have you done where you have managed to wrestle the reins from the ANC?
I can take you to Port Elizabeth. The budget they're still using is a budget to fund it. One, we finance maintenance of infrastructure. PE and Nelson Mandela, I can tell you, is a construction site as we speak. Because we fix the roads, we fix the lights, we clean we clean the streets. Go here in East London. The roads are with cars.
You clean the streets. Which streets? Because the other morning, Morning Live was doing a debate from the northern areas of Port Elizabeth, and it was absolutely filthy.
You know what? Because they overthrew the DA, the UDM, and the EFF, and the ANC. They collapsed all services. Now, on our USDG grant, they spent only 27% of the grant. When we're in government, we spent 100% of it. We got an additional amount of money of 200 million because it was taken to areas where it was not spent. When we're governing, we spend that. The other issue in the Eastern Cape is an issue of jobs. That's why people are leaving. 1.2 million people are unemployed, 700,000 they've given up looking for jobs. You know why? Because the ANC does not understand the importance of creating a conducive environment for business to flourish. The processes in which they have killed our small businesses. Businesses are not paid here in the Eastern Cape. They take a year to pay businesses. People leave. They use cadre deployment. People with expertise leave here and go and contribute in other parts. We attract them in the Western Cape.
But everybody uses cadre deployment. Everybody uses cadre deployment.
No, not the DA.
Everybody uses cadre deployment. Mr. Banga, everybody uses cadre deployment. If you go to the Western Cape, it is all about cadre deployment. Isn't a bad thing, by the way. It's not a bad thing in and of itself.
It's a bad thing.
No, it is not.
It's a bad thing. I will tell you. Let me tell you what it does. Is that you appoint your own friends. You appoint your own comrades. And what happens? You take people who do not have skills. Municipalities in the Eastern Cape, all peri-urban municipalities are collapsing one by one, in particular your rural municipalities.
That is cadre deployment gone wrong. That's cadre deployment gone wrong. The Democratic Alliance will not appoint someone from the DA, from the UDM, from wherever. They will appoint members of the Democratic Alliance where they govern.
Just give me one.
If you go to the city of Cape Town, who are the MECs? Are they members of other parties? Who are the bureaucrats? Are they members of other parties?
Give me one.
But what do you mean?
I will tell you about Nelson.
What do you mean? Because if the Democratic Alliance governs the Western Cape, you're not going to give your ministerial positions in the province to members of other parties. That is cadre deployment.
We're talking about jobs when we're talking about politicians. Maybe the confusion is there.
Perhaps.
We're talking about administrators and officials, you're professionals. In Nelson Mandela alone, when we were in government, we didn't even appoint one single person of the DA. My ED was a member of the ANC, Nolwandle Gqiba, and a very competent person in which we respect. They do have good people, but what they do, they take those who are close to them, who collapse everything.
I think that's the point. Cadre deployment is not in and of itself a bad thing. It is when cadre deployment goes wrong that the problems arise, when you don't appoint the right people. But EFF, I want to hear from you because, and also respond to the charge from the DA that you are responsible for some of the service delivery issues in Nelson Mandela Bay Metro.
Thank you, Sakina. We are not responsible for the service delivery collapse in Nelson Mandela Bay. The reason why the DA was removed from power in Nelson Mandela, it is because it was not servicing black communities. It was not servicing colored areas. The focus was around white areas. That's why it was removed from power. And now, if anything does not speak to our people, we cannot be party to that. We cannot support a party that looks down on black people. So that is why the DA lost power in Nelson Mandela.
So why did you support them in the first place?
Sakina, first of all, we were not in a coalition with the DA. We just voted for them to be in power.
Hence I said, why did you support them?
Why did we support them? Because at the end, we wanted to remove a corrupt government of the ANC. And that gave us an opportunity to hold the DA to account. Because in all these metros that we have supported the DA, we have managed to force the DA to insource security guards, to insource cleaners in those municipalities. So it was a tactical move on the part of the EFF to support the DA. But we had to withdraw that when we saw that they are still hold anti-black sentiments.
So the employment problem, the education problem, what's your solution to that in this province and of course if you can countrywide?
Sakina, on the question that you asked initially on migration, because all these things, all these problems that we are facing in South Africa are linked to the primary contradiction, which is land dispossession. Because when people were dispossessed of their land, they were forced into labor in order to sustain themselves, cheap labor. So South Africa is still involved in the migrant labor system. And the ANC, when it came to power in 1994, it did not transform the structural economic structure of South Africa. It took it as it is. I will make an example of this because I want to refute the fact that the ANC is doing something to change despite the spatial planning and development of apartheid. If you look at the townships that are being, RDP houses that are being built, there's a place here in Buffalo City that is called Reston. That place is close to 20 kilometers away from the city center. And we are saying now we are reversing the gains of spatial planning and development of the apartheid, but we are still throwing our people away from economic activity. And this policy is saying that they are revitalizing the economic hubs or the industrial zones. Industrialization cannot be where you bring warehouses. That is not industrialization. Where you bring warehouses to store finished goods. That is not industrialization. We want to create manufacturing plants so that we can add value to the process of production.
How are you going to attract foreign investment that's going to give impetus to the things that you want to do, given that the South African economy has all but flatlined? How are you going to do that?
Sakina, it is for a country to develop, you do not need to rely on foreign investment.
So how are you going to do
because, it? Because the EFF is saying that you must remember that the EFF is founded on 7 cardinal pillars. That is, the basis of the EFF is for the expropriation of land without compensation, nationalization of all strategic sectors, that is the banks, mines, and other strategic sectors of the economy. Once we have taken back the land, that means we have effectively nationalized industries where we will have control over, like I'll make an example with companies like ArcelorMittal. What that was ISCO in the it used to be a state-owned company. Then it became a private company, that is ArcelorMittal and Sasol. Now we are saying we want to take back those strategic assets and bring them back to South Africa, because what these companies, what the ANC policies have done, have made capital to go to London, where they have dual listings here in South Africa, in London. So the profits that they make here, they store them in London, and they do not contribute into the development of
I'm going to
our
come
economy.
back. I'm going to come back on this, because I think there's a lot of rhetoric once again, and things are easier said than done. So we'll try and see if you guys can actually give us a proper vision for South Africa going forward. PAC.
Yeah. What the PAC would like to say is that if you want to deal with problems of migration, you have got to deal with the issue of contextualization of the education system. The education system should speak to the problems of the context. The problem is that the education system now is skewed towards capitalist frame of thought. It's not skewed towards the sort of socialist leaning. So the idea is to try to influence the education system. So how do we do that? You have to remember that the Higher Education Act gives universities autonomy. So in a sense, universities produce students they would like to produce, not students that we would like to have. And the problem then is when you produce students wanted by the university that seeks to make profit, so you are unable to deal with questions of economic development. This is precisely why, Sakina, currently you have a problem of 48% of unemployment. Part of these people who are unemployed are graduates, right? Why do we have graduates unemployed? How is it possible that a university would have educated young individuals and ultimately thereafter they are unemployed? It means there is no education planning in South Africa. Universities are planning on behalf of the entire society. You can't have a society like that. We have got to control the university where the skills themselves are produced.
We've failed for 25 years, because if universities are doing that, they are doing it with the tacit approval of all of you sitting here and all of us as South Africans.
But the PIC, in the context of its own structures like PASMA, has been constantly challenging the nature of the university itself. To say the university needs to be completely decolonized because it has been historically compartmentalized to sort of develop young professionals needed by the apartheid regime, right? And they still remain like, that's why if you go to any university, Sakina, you find that the people that you get, they have done office management, they've done human resource. You don't find black engineers in particular. You don't find African people who can then be able to help us on issues of the water crisis, who can be able to help us on the issue of industrialization and building factories and plants. It's precisely because the African National Congress since 1994 has never built a single university. What they have done is that they have incorporated colleges into a quasi-university. This is precisely where the problem is. We have got to take control. We can't, you have to remember, universities are run by corporations who instruct them what the curriculum should be. And this is precisely why ultimately we've got labor reserves in the market where capitalists continue to exploit our people. We have got to control the university. But the second thing we need to do is, what do we do once we have done that? What we need to do is that we need to be able to say, how many engineers do we need? How many factories do we need where? And how do we build the skills capacity within the university context? And how to ensure that work integrated learning and the university are able to function in a way that assists society to be able to self-sustain? And that's where the problem is. We are educating society in order to be employed by the bureaucrats and the capitalists. We have got to educate them to the extent that they're able to self-sustain.
All right, thanks, PAC. Let me jump to UDM and I'll come back to SRWP.
Yeah. Let me respond to the question of urban migration. One of the reasons that people migrate from rural areas to urban areas, and sometimes the majority from Eastern Cape to other provinces, one reason has been mentioned, that of this cadreship deployment. But the other one is that people in the Eastern Cape are not employed on merit. They advertise jobs, but that job, as it is advertised, it is known that so-and-so will occupy that position. People just go for interviews and they know that they want Mr. X to occupy the position. That is a problem. We talk of brain drainage. If you go to other provinces, Western Cape, Gauteng and other provinces, you'll find that the person who is the Director General Department X is coming from the Eastern Cape, is coming from Tata. But here in the Eastern Cape, there is no space for them. They are chased away because the ANC government has got this tendency of employing friends, relatives. It is worse, this aspect of sex for jobs, that jobs at government level. are reserved for sex partners, and that becomes wrong. So what we are saying as the United Democratic Movement is that jobs, people must get jobs on merit, irrespective of whether a person is a relative of a president or a minister. But if a person does not qualify for a job, he must not get the job.
And
what is
that's
also-
a fair point. However, how much of the unemployment problem can be absorbed by government employing people?
Well, the people of the Eastern Cape in the first place are not actually capacitated enough by government to actually be made to be job creators than job seekers. So everybody is queuing for jobs. The majority of our people seek jobs because they lack skills to provide jobs for themselves. So the government then has got the responsibility to make sure that it takes away this burden of people who rely on social grants, but put people on the employment system. That is the crisis facing the province of the Eastern Cape. And unfortunately, we have got mines. That is why the UDM says, if we actually strengthen our agricultural production, we focus on agriculture to feed the people, because we don't have mines here where we're going to employ people and then we make sure that the people have got their own sources of income. But if you allow people to go and plow for themselves and you subsidize that farming, as it was done by the previous government. In the Eastern Cape, we used to have good schemes, Nocha irrigation scheme in Tofimvab, and other schemes that were helping people to be able to be wealth creators of their own. But those systems were washed away by the ANC in 1994.
With which money are you going to capacitate people to do that? Because what is the debt to GDP ratio right now in South Africa? Let me run through the parties. Where's the money going to come from? What's the debt to GDP ratio?
There's a lot of money in this country.
Okay, PAC, SRWP, what's the debt to GDP ratio?
I beg your question?
The debt to GDP ratio in our country.
Well,
how much of our GDP goes towards debt in this country?
Half of it goes to the debt because we've got this debt that is endless.
So where are we going to get the money from?
No, the problem is that in South Africa, our priorities are upside down. If, for instance, you are going to say, from day one, when President Mandela was still president, President Mbeki, you would not have had guards to buy arms when people are hungry instead of prioritizing jobs for the people. Look at how much has been spent, by Bosasa, in funding the ANC campaigns in the past. How much has been spent on country? That money should have been used to create jobs for the people of South Africa, should have been used to empower the youth. So there is money in this country, but the problem is that the priorities of the ANC are upside down.
And now we're stuck with that debt that we can't wish away. We have to service that debt, and it comes at an astronomical amount to the country. But we are joined by the Socialist Revolutionary Workers' Party. Please just give us your view on the issues that you've heard, because I don't know at what point exactly you came in.
Thank you very much, Sakina. Our view on the issue, because when I come in, you are debating the migration. The view from the SRWP is that the migration from the rural and the poor provinces like the Eastern Cape is a product of the so-called GEA policy of 1996. And through that GEA policy, there was, of course, a less spending, or what you called a tightened spending. So a tightened belt. So obviously most jobs were washed away. Then the people left with no choice but now to leave the place where they are staying, where they grew up. They had to go to the urban areas. Our view as
Okay. Just on a point of clarity, when you say that the implementation of GEAR led to jobs being lost, explain that. And also, perhaps, just taking one further step backwards, why did we move from the RDP, which was the Reconstruction and Development Program, towards GEAR?
The RDP, which was a popular policy, was of course abandoned by the African National Congress at the time.
Why?
It was abandoned because the African National Congress was biased to the foreign investment. So obviously then they came up with a GEAR which was imported to South Africa. Then that policy is the policy that we are stuck with today, which brought the South Africa to the standstill economically. And it is our view that so many jobs that are lost is as a result of the very less spending, or the so-called tightened belt. So our view is that we must make a point that you expand the spending so that there are job creation in the rural area, in the provinces like the Eastern Cape, so that people cannot migrate and go to Johannesburg, Gauteng and the Cape Town, Western Cape, where there are only few jobs left. So people must work where they reside, where they live. Then in that way, then you'll be able to sustain the economic situation of the provinces and the municipalities. Otherwise, municipalities have actually collapsed because of the tightened belt that we have seen and witnessed.
Well, interesting views there from our panel, and of course I want to invite you into the discussion with your questions. We should have a microphone somewhere. We'll be sending it out and then we'll take your questions, and please, if you can keep it short and sharp. And as I had indicated at the start, that this is going out, of course, on SAFM and also online, and we're going to continue with the online publication. You can of course access it as well later on, where you will find it on YouTube, the SABC's YouTube channel. So SABC News Online is where you can get this. SAFM, you've got to go to news, and Dwalane Tulo is reading the news today. So we're going to send SAFM back to the studio, but we continue, of course, here on SABC News Online as this debate at the Orient Theatre in East London in the Eastern Cape continues. And just again, a reminder of the parties here: the AIC, the ANC, ATM, AZAPO, the EFF, the DA, then next to the DA we have the PAC, and did I miss the EFF, then the PAC, and the SRWP and UDM. These are the parties that are represented here today. All right, let's get on to it. As we get people to ask questions, as that mic goes around, I quickly want to ask you about, again, the questions that have been raised about the pertinent issues in this particular province. Obviously, people need to create jobs, but I don't want to belabor that point because I didn't hear any clear articulation from any of the parties about where the solution is actually going to come from. It's one thing to say we need to create jobs. It's quite another to say exactly how you are going to create those jobs, because if you were in government tomorrow, what would you actually do? But let me ask you this, starting here on this side for this particular section, and I want you to do it very sharply in 30 seconds. What is your actual vision for this province if you were to win it as the UDM?
The vision for the UDM, if we can govern in the Eastern Cape after the 8th of May, one, it is to bring policies that will eradicate poverty, also fight corruption, and also make profits and make the Eastern Cape an attractive province for investors to come and invest, so that these factories that we're talking about here that have been closed in Timbaza, Butterworth and other areas of the province get open, and you invest in other, we invite other countries of the world to come and invest in the Eastern Cape. Also, you fight crime. Okay, I want you to keep it short and sharp. SRWP, what would you do? What's your vision?
If this thing is audio. Our vision is very clear. You can't fight unemployment and poverty under the womb of capitalism system. Our stand is very clear that we must crush and destroy capitalism as a system, because it's a system of a greed, a system that cannot avoid a crisis by its very nature. Jobs will always gonna be washed away, the crisis will be deepened under the system. Once you do away with the system of a capitalism, you solve the problem of the entire world, the problem of South Africa. The jobs are going to be created, then there will be a stability and a peace.
Okay, so socialist system is the answer according to you, and PAC?
Sakina, I think it's easy to give simple solutions to a big problem. And most political parties simply say, let's end corruption. It's not going to solve the problem. They say, let's reform capitalism. It's not going to solve the problem. What the PAC suggests is that there are things you can do in the immediate, and there are things you can do in the long run. But most importantly, in the immediate, you need to declare capitalism morally repugnant. And then you need then to set up structures that distribute power, control over politicians themselves. Well, the problem is we don't control the politicians we elect. They are controlled by business. So you can't have a person in politics and in business later. You have to say no politics. If in politics, no business. If in business, no politics.
Interesting. EFF?
Hello, sure.
as the EFF, one of our cardinal pillars is massive industrial development, where we support localization of manufacturing. We have, for the Eastern Cape, identified 7 areas where we will declare special economic zones, cleared for us to establish factories so that there can be economic activity in those areas. Because the major problem that we have in South Africa is that we have political power, but we do not have control over the economy. So for us to give people jobs, we need to have control over our economy. And we can only do that once we end capitalism and replace it with socialism.
All right. Thanks so much, EFF. DA.
Hello. The DA is very clear. We are going to...
Okay, DA is struggling to hear you there. Let's move to Azapo. We'll come back to you.
Okay.
Same for Azapo. Anyone there who has sound? ANC? Please speak to us. We'll come back to the others as we fix that. Okay, DA's got the mic. It's fine.
1, 2.
Please continue.
The DA will put a job in each and every home, because jobs are very important in transforming the lives of the people, and it makes people independent. And we'll make sure that our people who have passed the matric, they get an experiential training which is going to be remunerated for a period of a year in education, in health, and in the policing. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to make sure that we fix the municipalities. Because if you can't fix the municipalities that have collapsed in the Eastern Cape, you're going to have a problem, because they're supposed to deliver services.
All right.
And we'll arrest politicians who have stolen from the poor. Sakina, let me tell you something. In the Eastern Cape, the past 5 years, they bought food for 102 million rand. You were asked, the government of the ANC, the provincial government, they bought food for 102 million rand. The past 5 years. The money.
But we're talking your vision now. What are you going to do?
I'm saying you'll stop and cut the fat of people who are stealing money off the people, and make sure that those people go to prison for 15 years. That's what the DA is going to do in stopping corruption.
All right. Azapo?
Thank you. Thank you, Sakina. Azapo has a solution for the Eastern Cape. We are, of course, a socialist organization, but there will be no socialism in the next 5 years in the Eastern Cape. So we must speak to the immediate. Look, you've got to fight corruption. We all agree on that, because it's a cancer that takes away from the poor. But we've got to deal with the human dignity of our people. We must treat our people with respect. We will build them decent housing. We must eradicate the shacks. The picture that you see is dehumanizing to black people. We must create employment, but in creating employment, we must use a multiplicity of strategies. We must deal with cooperatives where our people club together, offer services, and that creates jobs. But we, of course, would also be dealing with industries. But in the main, the Eastern Cape is a very rural province. You have got to deal with agriculture, subsidy to small farmers, but agro-processing, you've got to know, when you encourage people to plant, what happens to the produce? People are not making money, it's only for subsistence, because we do not have agro-processing. So Azapo will be focusing in this province on agro-processing, so that we close the gap between urban and rural areas.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Right, ATM.
Am I audible now? Yes, thank you. On microeconomy sense, you need to protect that space for strictly South Africans, meaning that in the province, strictly for people that live here. So that they can
Please
participate
give clarity
economy.
when you talk about the microeconomy. What exactly are you talking about?
The small businesses that you find, the spaza shops in your rural areas and in your townships, the salons in your townships and in your rural areas. To convert current clinics to mini hospitals, so that they can continue to serve the people even during the night, so that they don't have to wait only the morning to access the clinic. Secondly, increase the number of ambulances that responds to our people, because that's the current challenge that we have in the rural areas. Expand present police stations so that when there's a problem where we've called police. We do not have an issue where they said one van has responded to other area, but we must have efficiency. As well as reinstall the issue of traditional leaders in rural areas must maintain custody of the land on behalf of the people, because that's where the problem currently lies. The traditional leaders do not have dignity no more.
All right, ANC.
Thank you very much, Sakina. Look, we'll answer this question different from other political parties because we're a party in government. So we're not going to say this is what we do. We'll say this is what we do. So different from other political parties, we're going to tell you.
So, just on a point of clarity, because the question was, what is your vision for the province? So are you saying your vision is the same? All right, continue then.
Let me explain to you. When Buffalo City, for instance, Sakina, if you talk about the resting, if you talk about here,
Can we please listen to the ANC on their vision for the Eastern Cape?
I just want to make
Just give us a moment. There are people who do want to hear what the ANC's vision is. Please, can we just cooperate? Okay, we'll wait. Okay. The more time you take, the less time there is for you to participate. Okay, ANC.
Sakina, let's talk about Dangan Village as one of the oldest townships in Buffalo City. It's congested. It was designed by the Apartheid Special Development. What we're doing, the township that we're talking about, the resting, is a new township developed by the ANC, taking people out of that congestion of the apartheid to a new settlement. Already a company, a service provider that is going to build more than 3,000 new units in Dangan Village has been appointed. I'm talking about something practical. We're recovering roads in Buffalo City. We're recovering homes. We're expanding electricity. Already we're talking about more than 5,000 new units that have been developed in Buffalo City alone. More than 10 million new houses have been built in the Eastern Cape. We're talking about something that is coming. If you go around Eastern Cape, throughout the province of the Eastern Cape, it's a construction site in terms of roads. You start from PE to Bizana, new roads throughout the Eastern Cape. You go to school. Eastern Cape is now at 70% in terms of the market price. 70% were building new schools in the rural area. This is what we're doing. We're building rural economy. Oha that they're talking about, we're revitalizing Oha as we speak. We're revitalizing. They're talking about Tata. Yesterday we were in the Tata with the provincial chairperson of the ANC. We are revitalizing Tata where they were killing that town. We're rebuilding Tata to a best city. As we speak now, Buffalo City, Zombie, all the townships where we're building them, we're building reservoirs, we're building water, we're connecting our people. This is what we're doing.
Okay.
We're talking about any vision we're developing. All we're saying now is that the economy of the South Africa and Buffalo City must not be in the hands of the white few, must be expanded.
Okay.
Give SAFM the chance of opportunity. They must be developed, they must participate in the economy.
Okay.
This is what we're doing for this state. Help.
So the ANC will continue with
We
its
are
current
continuing with the
projection.
development, but we're expanding the economy
Okay.
for the better people.
All right. Vision from the AIC.
Deepening the infrastructure in terms of the development
Okay.
of the state.
AIC.
As the IC, our vision, firstly, is to do away with tender system. Because the tender system is robbing many people who have the know-how. For instance, the houses that is talking about now, tenders are given to the people who don't know even to build a house. As a result of that, there are shorty houses right now. Houses have cracks because they're given to people who don't know how to build a house. There are people out there who have boards and say, I am a painter, I am a builder. Then what is important for us to have corporations? Those people that have the skills to do the work. So the building of house will be given to those people. Secondly, we'll rebuild. I mean, it's to open the factories that have been closed. Because people in Timbaza, as I speak, many of them that have been working there, they don't have jobs up to now. We'll reopen those factories so that people can rework where they've been working.
Okay. All right. Let's open it to the floor. Now, I'm going to appeal to you once again, if we can just display some form of tolerance for the next 45 minutes that we have. I know that you don't agree with some of the sentiments that are being expressed, and that is absolutely fine. It's your democratic right. But can we at least just listen to one another, let the person make their point, and then you can jeer all you like. Okay, so I don't know exactly where that mic is. I'm trying to locate it. Okay, it's towards that end. So let's start there and let's move it along. Please, just your name and your question.
Thanks, Sakina. My name is Mlindi Nana. I'm from the Democratic Alliance. I would firstly like to correct you on the statement you made that we are in coalition with UDM and them in PE. They dethroned us last August, I think on the 16th, as you will know.
But you were?
Yes, of course we were, yes. But we are no longer. We don't sleep with crooks. My question, Sakina, is directed to the Premier in waiting of the Eastern Cape, the leader of the DA in the Eastern Cape, Ngababam. What is your party's view on land expropriation without compensation? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take another question.
Manja! African Independent Congress. Umbuzo wami awuselula uwenu. Ntoni ozayenza ngabantu street kids? Owesibili, intoni ozayenza ngabantu aba-mentally challenged? Enkosi.
Thank you so much. Next question. All right, this side. Whoever has the mic, can you please just give us your name and ask the question?
I'm Sindilizwe Ngabu from Azapo. My question is directed to Azapo. Can you explain to us what's going to happen with the provincial governments when Azapo takes over, and also your position on women?
Okay. Is there anything specific regarding women? I'm not sure. But it's fine. We'll take an answer from Azapo. ANC?
Okay, sure. Thank you very much. My name is Mandilake Mpanzi. I come from the ANC. But nonetheless, my question is directed to the Democratic Alliance. Now, the question that I want to ask to DA is one, we understand that as the country were coming from a disadvantaged background under the apartheid legacy. Now, your position on the land question, we understand the fact that, or rather, what is your position on white people who are owning hectares, hundreds of hectares of land in the Eastern Cape and as well in Western Cape, because the ANC government is trying to deal with the matter of the land redistribution back to people, but the white people who are obviously the owners of the land, of the properties and the farmers and the farms are the problem directly so to the endeavor and the wish of the ANC to tackle directly the issue of the land question. Okay. And equally so, what is your view on what Helen Zille did in the Western Cape, that people from the Eastern Cape are refugees to the Western Cape, and the socio-economic circumstances of our people in the the Western Cape? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Let me just remind you, please, short, sharp, and to the point. Give me your name and give me one question.
Thank you, Sakina. My name is Kat Muji, and my question goes to ATM. One of the problems that we have in South Africa is the issue of crime, and I know that in our manifesto, we are talking about capital punishment as an issue that seeks to address the issue of high crime rate. Can we get an elaboration on that issue?
Thank you so much for that question. Next question.
Thank you. I am Dando Ngamana from the PAC. My question is directed particularly to the PAC. There's a burning issue of the Xolobeni community. we are made to believe that should the Xolobeni mining go through, it will benefit the community. It will bring jobs, it will boost our economy. But mining in South Africa or mining industry have not done its part, have not served its purpose. We have seen, for example, we have seen Marikana whereby the president mandated police to kill people. There's no justice. I just want to ask the particular stance of the PAC when it comes to Xolobeni. The second question is directed to the DA. They speak of fixing municipalities. Yet in Alexandra, there's burning issues of lack of services, and the mayor is nowhere to be found. Is that what you do when you are in power? You run away from the people. You run away when you are elected. You run away to account to the masses of our people. Is that what you are going to do when you govern this country? That is, when you govern this country. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Let's take one more question before I return to the panel. Two more.
Okay, my name is Bongo. My question is directed to Councillor Chumani. In your slogan, you are saying our land and jobs now. Now my question is, why emphasis on now?
Okay, that's to the EFF.
It's from EFF.
To EFF as well. Your question was directed to?
Yes, directed to EFF.
Thank you. All right, one more and then I'll get the panel to respond.
My name is Matiwane, and my question is directed to the EFF on traditional leadership. What is it that the EFF is saying on traditional leadership and the relationship of those cultural institutions to the greater society? And what is it that it says on the issue of cultural revolution? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's try to answer them in the order in which they came. And please, can I appeal to the panel as well? Short, sharp, so that we can take another round of questions. Starting with the Democratic Alliance, quite a few questions there for you. Starting with the land question, there was a question about expropriation without compensation and how you would deal with that. Also a question regarding white people and the role which they play, that sort of context within the land question. And the question around a statement that was made about people from the Eastern Cape being refugees to the Western Cape.
Thank you, Sakina. Sakina, the DA will never support land expropriation without compensation. We'll never support that. We'll never support the nationalization of land in this country. Why? For years, our parents in these homes that were built like in Tanzania and KwaZulu, like including my parents, they were renting to the government. This thing of nationalizing land and taking it, we are saying we must not own property. The DA, we are saying we want land reform. But land reform that produces food. But land reform that does not going to destroy a food development. In the Western Cape, we have partnerships where the farming workers themselves own farms and work together, but we give them training, we give them skills. Here is the problem. The ANC government spends more than money for VIP protection than the money it has invested on land reform. In the DA will never do that, will deal with that. The second issue I want to deal with is the issue of refugees. There are no refugees here in South Africa. We are all South Africans. And the context in which Helen was raising, it was saying, people travel and go and live from the Eastern Cape, the urban migration you were talking about, looking for jobs, looking for better schooling facilities. In the DA was saying, where we govern, here in the Eastern Cape, we'll make sure that our people will create better schools, create job opportunities, that they don't go to the Western Cape in the same context that we are raising.
So will you get to a point where you condemn that statement? Because unfortunately, when things are said, the context, it is usually devoid of the sort of contextual stipulation that you are making right now.
Yeah,
so to call people refugees from one province to the next.
We are South Africans, we can't be refugees in our own home. That's why I'm putting a context in which what she was trying to explain. That people go to the Western Cape and looking for opportunities because we create jobs in the Western Cape with better schooling facilities, with better infrastructure and all of that. Let me go to Alexandra. I'm very happy that Mashaba did not go to Alexandra on the ANC terms. Let me explain what is happening. The ANC is about to lose Gauteng. They are going to lose it. We are going to take over Gauteng and we're going to take over the Northern Cape out of there. Now, they are doing what they did to Mbeki in Khotsong. I will remind you of what happened in Khotsong. Because they wanted to deal with Mbeki's credibility, they caused instability in Khotsong. And it was followed by xenophobia in Alexandra because their intention was to destroy his
Okay,
African program.
just one question,
Therefore, the
because
DA is not going to go there. Mashaba is going to go and have an IDP and talk to the people of Alexandra, not the people who are trying to destabilize. Yesterday, the DA volunteers were in Alexandra, not even one single person threw a stone to them because people of Alexandra, they know that the DA delivers.
Okay, let's move on to the other questions. AIC, what you're going to do about the question of street kids, and there was also a question about people with disabilities. And incidentally, on the plane coming here yesterday, I read an article about 500,000 children with disabilities in this country who are not in school. So what are you going to do about that?
Thank you so much, and thank you from the person that asked the question. The AIC, as the organization, we believe we are very much concerned about what is called street kids in our country. Because it takes a village to raise a child. And every child has a right. A right to a shelter, a right to health care, a right to protection. As per the Bill of Rights, Section 28 of the Bill of Rights. Now, as AIC, we are saying, we will ensure that these kids, named as street kids, will take them to a place of safety where they will be rehabilitated, given education, trained technical skills so that they can be useful in the country. But we cannot do that alone. We involve the following departments: the Home Affairs, SAPS, and Social Development. Above that, these children will know they are about 10 years or 9 years. It means that they have mothers and fathers who are using their grants while the children are sleeping on the streets. So we also investigate the parents of the children who are called street kids.
But your assumption is that these children are coming from homes. Why couldn't it be that, for example, these are children who come from a house, a home where there are no parents, given the socioeconomic background that we know about many people in this country?
That's why you have to investigate. Take the child, ask where the child lives, and you go to where the child is directing you to, so that you can find out whether there are no parents or there are parents. If there are no parents, it's still our obligation to take these children and place them in a place of safety, as I've said. And about the mentally challenged people.
People with disabilities as a group.
As a group. As the IC, we are very concerned about people who are living with, with disabilities or who are challenged. These people sometimes are neglected. And these people are not getting the protection that they need. For instance, if I speak about mentally challenged people, these are the people that you should take them to the mental hospital where they can get adequate treatment and being monitored.
Okay, let me ask you, what does your manifesto say about that, about people with disabilities?
Our manifesto about the people that have disabilities. The government, for instance, those who are at school, we as a AIC was saying, the people that are physically challenged, they must be looked after. They must given the right education so that they can be productive in their lives.
Let me run through the panel very briefly. What is your manifesto saying about people with disabilities? Because this always comes up as an afterthought. ANC, what does your manifesto say about people with disabilities?
Yeah, okay. Look, the African National Congress, as you know, is the only organization in South Africa that when it came to power, it protected the rights of people living with disabilities.
But what does your manifesto say right now?
The people with living with disability, already there's a policy in the African National Congress and the government that they must be given a preferential employment so that when you advertise the post, you must be specific as a department, whether municipality or department, that you give preference to people with disabilities. So that's a policy of the African National Congress.
Okay, ATM, what is your... I just want to know, because I'm moving through questions that were asked, but incidentally, I want to know what you have said in your manifestos as the party about people with disabilities.
Thank you very much, Sakina. The people with disabilities have been prioritized in the African transformation movement. For example, one of our leaders, our provincial leaders, deputy chairperson in the Western Cape, is a person that moves with a wheelchair. So we've taken into consideration that we've got to work with them.
Is it in your manifesto?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
That is for that reason that we've appointed a person to lead in the structures of the ATM with disability.
Azapo?
Thank you, Sakina. In page 281, in subsection 2B of our manifesto, the Tanzanian People's Organization makes it very clear that people with disabilities are a target group. They must be treated with respect. But we're also saying that when we develop infrastructure, because most of the infrastructure in this country does not cater for people with disabilities, so we're saying we would target that, apart from making them a target group where they must receive preferential treatment.
DA? Carry on, DA.
I want to. The DA's position is very clear because we're an open opportunity party. Is that people with disabilities first, they must be given an equal opportunity for them to be to participate in the economic mainstream of the republic, even in job opportunities and throughout. And the issue of the infrastructure in the Eastern Cape is a problem. The schools for children with special needs are rare in the Eastern Cape.
What does the manifesto say?
Our manifesto is saying we'll build those schools and make sure that our children are able to get proper training in order for them to participate in the mainstream economy like any other South African.
EFF?
Is it audible? Okay. Thank you, Sakina. As the EFF, we are saying that when it comes to disability, people living with disabilities, we need to go on a campaign of educating our people on disability so that they can understand people who are living with disabilities.
Does the manifesto actually says that?
It's in our manifesto, Sakina.
Does it actually say we must go and train people?
It doesn't say we must go and train people.
So what does the manifesto say?
Educating people about the people living with disabilities and empowering people who have disabilities and have legislation that will address the question of people who are living with disabilities.
All right, PAC? PAC?
So the PAC believes that, first of all, we have to deal with the question of how disabled people are discriminated.
What does the manifesto say?
I'm saying that that's the framework within which we are putting our
just give me the manifesto. The manifesto says this is what we are going to do about people with disabilities.
Right. So what the manifesto says is that in the context of disabilities, we have to create conditions that are attainable for people with disabilities. But secondly, the PAC says that we have to build infrastructure and an environment and schools and ensure that they are not discriminated against. We don't want necessarily to create separate schools for people, but we want them to be integrated.
It's in the manifesto?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. SRWP?
And infrastructure conducive for the people living with disabilities. Example, the people living with the disabilities can't be able to move from point A to point B because of a transport infrastructure. So there must be a transport infrastructure that is capable, that is conducive for them, so that they can be able to participate in the economic scale of our country. They are able to move from point A to point B. That is what we are saying.
And UDM?
UDM believes that people with disability must be elevated to a level where they are in the decision making. For example, in this panel, I'm the only one who has got a disability. That shows that the UDM has got confidence in people with disability, how they think, how they act, how they do things. So we believe that special facilities must be made or must be created for people with disability to prosper like any other South African. So that is our manifesto. That's what it is saying. We'll care for them, we'll cater for them.
Okay, I'm gonna put a challenge to the panel as we move on to other questions. I want all of you, when we walk out of here, so if you have members here that you can task to find that for me, because the only person that was very clear about a manifesto position on people with disabilities, absolutely clearly articulated from what I heard in this round here, was Azapo, who could tell me exactly where it was. The rest of you, please, I want to see in your manifestos, where do you talk about the things that you have just said about people with disabilities? And I challenge you to show me that before we leave here. All right, let's move on. Also, there was a question, Azapo, about provincial government. What are you going to do about provincial government?
Thank you, Sakina. Firstly, it would have been nice if we were asked about Kolobeni, because we're the only party that works there, but we were not asked that. Let's deal with provinces.
Deal with what you asked, yes.
Azapo has foresight. In 1999 already, we were a laughing stock of many political parties in this country. When we made this proposal, we said our research shows that we would save 6 billion rands if we could abolish provincial governments. They are a waste of time. You have 9 MECs and a Minister of Health. These people are doing nothing. You replicate everything. We are saying the coal face of delivery is local government. So this is where we would be deploying all the resources, all the people, once we abolish provincial governments. And we are very happy, Sakina, that other people have also seen the light. They have joined the call, except that we want to ask them to make the right call. It's not provinces that we are abolishing, it's provincial governments. You would still have a semblance of some borderlines, but we are saying those borderlines would simply be simple administrations that do not have the cumbersomeness that spends 6 billion rand that should be spent on our people. We've also been asked a question about women empowerment. Should I go to that?
Yes, answer that, please.
Well, I was asked a question about women in leadership. In Azapo, we do not pay lip service to women in leadership. We have had 2 presidents in our lifetime, Azapo. Nombulelo Mkefa, who was initially Kobas, was president. May Winnie the late, peace be upon her, was the president in our movement. We have 6 candidates in this province, out of the top 10 being women. Even the provincial leader, the one who's going to defeat Ngaba and the rest, is a woman in Wingim Mbisa. So we're not paying lip service to that.
Okay.
Further to it, we just want to add this rider. When women are in leadership positions, don't give your struggles to men. Do not close the door behind you. We have seen a group of women here who harassed Kwezi. We must say these things in defense of a man. So these are the things we must condemn. Sometimes women are their own worst enemies. You defend a man, you toy in courts against a poor woman, Kwezi. And those women are here today.
Okay, let's go to the ATM. Your question was around capital punishment.
Thank you very much, Sakina. We are introducing a justice-based capital punishment. Why? South Africa is the highly murderous country where 57 people are murdered on a daily basis. The perpetrators who carry on doing this have no value whatsoever of a human life. Therefore, to ensure that we put a rigid halt to the current situation, we have to put a justice-based capital punishment so that it can prevent people from doing. Remember, when we put a law, we're actually we're introducing a measure through which will serve as a protection vehicle to the contravention of the law, because it is against the law to kill or to take away another's life. Currently, the political assassinations going on. Killing a person today is just a game. So what we're saying is, what is done to you, as the Bible in fact says, that the judgment to which you pass on to others shall be leveled against you. So here, we're not just quoting this out of nowhere. It has to be done so that we limit, because people don't fear anymore to kill. So they have to have a law that knows, if I kill, my life as well will be taken away. Hence it is called a justice-based, so that it can be fairly articulated and it cannot disadvantage the one who is found killed.
But that goes contrary to the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. So how are you going to juxtapose that to the Constitution?
Absolutely. The ATM has prioritized that we are going to tamper with the Constitution so that we can put this to effect, because it is currently killing the country.
Okay, that's the answer from ATM. We have to move on. PAC, the Kolobeni mining issue.
Right. So there are three things to say about the Kolobeni issue. The first one is that the ruling party has contempt for democracy. The people of Kolobeni have explicitly stated they do not want mining. Not only is the African National Congress in contempt of democracy, it is equally in contempt of the court judgment. The Minister of Minerals and Energy wants and insists on forcing people to mine. But the third thing, they are in contempt of the entire scientific research that has been done on the basis of whether mining could be able to provide security over a long period of time. We know, Sakina, that mining will take only a period of 22 years then. What happens after 22 years? Because farming is permanent in nature, but mining is not. What happens after 22 years? So the PAC says, on the question of how do we deal with the communities who own land, we say government should not have power. No minister should ever have a right to determine on behalf of a community. A community's word must stand, period. We shouldn't have to go to a court of law to ask a right to say no to farming. This is the same disaster that the African National Congress created in Richards Bay, where they've thought that tourism and mining could coexist. This is ridiculous. Give us a break. Give the people of Kolobeni a break. They have to determine their own fate. Finally, to say, Sagina, the whole idea that people think that an Australian company was going to care about the people of Kolobeni is ridiculous also. You have to remember what they want to get there. They want to expropriate that land. This is actually the reverse of what the ANC pretends to be doing. The idea that the ANC is trying to expropriate land is false. It is false because they are giving an Australian company the land of the people there. Secondly, they are doing the same thing at Mossel Bay. They are giving a French company, Total, a right to explore on our land, but more so a right thereafter to extract the natural gas condensate there. This is ridiculous. The ANC and the rest of the political parties would think for a second that this land is going to be returned through expropriation, an expropriation bill which has got 4 pages, by the way, Sakina. 4 chapters which talk about how these people are going to be paid back. In what way? The people who are voting for these political parties have not read what the expropriation bill is saying. It is not talking about the expropriation without compensation, whatever that means. It is talking about how these people are going to be paid ultimately. The whole thing is a facade, it's a farce. It's going to end up in a court of law, in a neoliberal court, and our people are going to lose, they're going to suffer.
All right, that's the PAC on Kolobeni mining issues, and I'll be headed to Kolobeni on Morning Live next week, so it promises to be an interesting one. And then EFF, traditional leadership, and also you seem to emphasize a bit of urgency with everything that you want to do. Why is that?
Thank you, Sakina. 2019 marks 25 years into democracy. and landlessness and joblessness among blacks are at a crisis level, posing a threat to the stability of the country. The emphasis on land derives from the fact that 25 years into democracy, 80% of the population still continues to occupy less than 10% of South Africa's land. And the emphasis on jobs is motivated by the fact that more than 7 million South Africans are unemployed and are languishing in hopelessness. The emphasis on now is informed by the fact that we have witnessed that political freedom without economic freedom is meaningless. So we are saying we cannot wait another 50 years for us to bring change. We want to see change now, because our people have been hoping that there would be change in the past 25 years, and we have witnessed that democracy for us, 1994, has changed nothing for black people. So we are saying we want to change South Africa now.
Okay, very interesting. I must just indicate, since we are in the Eastern Cape, very interesting, and I think mainstream media also seemingly hasn't paid attention to what would anywhere else in the world be an absolute crisis. What is happening in Lusigisi, and nobody is talking about it. The president didn't go there. None of the other political parties' leaders are going there, and yet people are dying. People have been, they've been pushed into the forest there. And South Africa, mainstream, we carry on as if nothing has happened. We are here on a panel discussion as well, and I gave you an opening remark time. Nobody is concerned, it would seem, about what is happening to the people on the ground and some of the real issues that are going on here in the Eastern Cape. But I'm going to come back. I want to go and take a few more questions. Let's start with the mic here to my left.
Good day. My name is Akona Enene, and my question is to Keda Swepu. How relevant is black consciousness in our living times? And how important it is for all South Africans to learn about the BC? Please educate us.
Thank you. Let's take another one on this side. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Walton. My question goes to the Democratic Alliance. The police have a poor record, they have a lack of credibility. Investigation results are poor. As a result, there are no consequences, as in prison. The DA proposes an honest and professional police. So my question to the DA then is, could you deal with how the DA proposes developing the skills to investigate and to prosecute the crimes in a competent and impartial manner to ensure that there are consequences for criminal actions? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move to this side again.
Thank you. My name is Sandisiwe Mapete. I'm from the ANC. I just want to make a few comments about the issue of NSFAS. I'm one of the beneficiaries of NSFAS. We've got free education, NSFAS, we're no more paying loans, so we are no more worried about that. So the university, they usually strike each and every year, but this year, Fort didn't strike at all. So the credibility of our diplomas and our degrees, it's no more questionable just because we don't strike, thanks to the ANC. Two, I want to ask the stance of the ANC in terms of the issue of the land and also the skills that we need to be equipped with in the university. Thank you.
All right, next question, this side. Yes, ma'am.
Enkosi Sihlalo. Igama lam ndingunonzame Ngxavulana. Ndiphuma pha kwi-AIC. Umbuzo wam uqonde ngqo pha kuyo. Ndifuna ukuqonda into yokubana sisuke emaphandleni sizogcwalisa edolophini. Phaya emaphandleni kukho ilali ezisezinkontyweni ekungakwazi ukungena kwa imoto. Kule 22 years ke sihleliyo sikwidemocracy azikhange zilifumane icham lokubana zibe kanti indlela ziyalungiseka. One, ii-clinics azikho, uhambi 20 kilometer ukuya kwindawo eneklinik, ungazukufumana moto. Ndifuna ke i-AIC isichazele uba iza kwenza njani ukuze kubekho ii-clinics kweza ndawo, kubekho iindlela ezicacileyo ezikwazi ukunceda abantu bangabhubheli ezindleleni. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question. Can we just have another question on this side? Yes, UDM?
Hi, I'm Zimbini, and my question goes to UDM. Corruption is the cause of poverty in Eastern Cape. So my question is, how do you plan on resolving the matter? And my second question is, what will be your area of focus in developing the economy of the Eastern Cape?
Okay, thank you so much. And okay, one more and then I'm going to take some answers and okay, 2 more, 3 more. Okay, let's move it quickly.
Okay, thanks so much. My name is Lungan Sangala. I just want to pose the question to the ATM. I just want to ask the ATM what is going to do about the issue of Kolobeni.
All right, I'm going to take one from you. I took 2 from UDM because they didn't get a question in the first round. They didn't have one. Let's get another question here. Yes.
Okay. Igama lam ndingusiyabonga Gida uhlala eSouthern Wood umhlala. Umbuzo wami uya straight pha ku-EFF. Kukho le nto iqhubekayo in South Africa yokubethwa kwe-Africans, of which it is not the right thing. Ndifuna ukwazi uba i-EFF ithini ngaloo nto. Okokugqibela.
All right, one question.
In Amalinda and East Bank, that residing area used to be an area for the black people, and they were forced bamuva to Umdantsane Kude. When can the EFF return that land to the black people of Imol?
Okay, let me ask you please one question, we're running out of time. Yes, sir?
Thank you very much, Madam. Ndicela ukubuza umbuzo phaa kwi-governing party ndingumhlali. There seems to be a complaint from the general public about the age of the employees of the governing party, and seemingly it affects basically how the governing party attracts the younger generation. What is the plan of the ANC to make the organization more appealing to the young people?
Okay. Thank you. One, please. One. I'm running out of time.
Thank you.
I'm running out of time, so that's why I'm trying to squeeze in as many as we can. All right.
I am Nogolite Mkuda. My questions are directed specifically to the PAC, Comrade Lungamandashe. I want Comrade Lungamandashe to expatiate more as to what does the PAC means when the PAC talks about compulsory quality free education as from grade R up until tertiary level, as against the paper chasing by people who study up towards the PhDs, but they do not get employed after graduation up until 5 years.
Okay.
And expatiate more
one
on
question,
the
ma'am.
issue
One
of
question.
eradication of corruption.
Okay, sir, your question, please. Please carry on, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. Afternoon.
My name is Kumi Punasamy. I'd like to pose a question to the SRWP. Comrade, an easy way of addressing unemployment. Please explain and expand on the division of labor. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Let's park it there. Let's park it there. Hold on. We're going to get answers now. Let's park it there. Let's get answers. because we have quite a lot to run through. So please, short, sharp, to the point, to the panel as well as you respond. Starting with Azapo, Black consciousness and its relevance today.
Thank you, Sakina. Black consciousness.
Can we please listen to the answers? Please just ask if you can just hold on. We are taking as many as we can. Can you please cooperate with us? Please, can we please cooperate? We are running out of time. All right, please continue, Azapo.
Thank you very much, Sakina. Black consciousness has never been more relevant than at this juncture in our country. As the philosophy of self-love, Steve Biko says the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. Now look at the mindset that needs black consciousness. A mindset where people steal from, black people steal from the poor, steal from black people. Those people need black consciousness, political education, where people continue to rape Omagogo. That's what black consciousness speaks to. It speaks to practical issues. We need to liberate these people so that you love black people. You have no love for black people if you are building their matchbox houses. A black government building matchbox houses for black people. So they need black consciousness. They need to be politicized on black consciousness, self-love. The reason these people steal from the poor is because they lack self-love.
Okay.
They lack black consciousness.
All right, and as I asked you to keep it short and sharp, Democratic Alliance, what are you going to do regarding policing skills? And also, there was a question about that situation.
Yeah, thank you, Sakina. As a DA, what we want to do, we want to devolve the mandate for policing to provinces who are capable of running the policing service closer to the people. We want to retrain the police to serve and protect, because what we want is that if police can't be able to investigate, to go to a police station, the first thing, you had a burglary, the police ask you, who do you suspect? Because they do not have the capacity to investigate cases. They take cases to court, they lose them. Therefore, we're saying we're going to retrain them. We're going to hire people with passion of police. Not people who go because they want money, people who love to serve and be police. We want to institute a drug busting force that will be able to deal with drugs and gangsterism. We want to restore the gangsterism unit. If you go to Nelson Mandela, our children die of gangsterism. We want to restore that. We want to make sure that we bring law and order in communities in order for us to have sustainable and free and safe communities.
Okay. All right, let's go to ANC, the question around higher education.
Thanks, Sakina. Look, the African National Congress, as you know, has decided that the education at a tertiary level must be free and compulsory. So we've agreed that from now moving on, students know in all the universities we're subsidizing the university, we're subsidizing the tuition at a free level up to a person who's earning more than 350,000 per annum. That's a free bracket for all our tertiary institutions. As you know, the history of where we come from, we have intervened decisively at the level of the education, at the high level. What we're doing now, we're redemocratizing in terms of the actual funding of the universities. As you know, the historical black universities and the historical white university, what we're doing now as government, we're trying to democratize in terms of the funding model so that the university can be of the same level in terms of the development. That's what we're doing. That goes with the skills development in terms of skilling of our people. Sakina, because we're being accused in this debate, let's go to the issue of Kolomeni because...
No, not now. I'm going to come back.
Please come back.
When you
come back
factor that in your closing remarks.
Yes, we want to come back
factor
to this
that.
But in terms of
you'll
the
have
skill
a minute.
development of intervened at a university level, the AS has made democratically free education.
Okay.
Even at a basic level, the education is free. Our kids are getting free
We
meals,
get it.
are getting our free
Okay.
education, free
Factor
transport.
the rest.
That's African National Congress delivering in terms
In
of
your
service.
closing remarks, if there's anything lingering that you want to address, factored into your closing
Please.
remark. All right, the AIC decrying the issue of, again, the lack of proper infrastructure, and also what are you going to do to ensure a situation whereby people do have access to roads that can get them to primary healthcare facilities or other healthcare facilities should they need them?
Thank you so much. The rural areas are the large part of our country that is almost forgotten, and its people. It's only used for voting. If you look at the roads in all rural areas, you hardly drive to a house. So as the AIC, what we're gonna do will budget so that the roads are continuously reconstructed within 6 months' time. Not to wait until there are furrows in the roads so that the vehicles cannot move to the people. About the clinics.
Yes.
About the clinics. The rural areas, most of them about 30 to 20 kilometers from the city. What we'll do, we'll build more clinics in the rural areas. Because you'll see that in one large rural village, there is only one clinic. Clinics in the village, we are saying the IRC will open for 7 days, 24 hours.
Okay, got you. UDM, corruption and your focus on the economy. Very briefly, UDM. Just go again, please, UDM.
Here in Buffalo City, in East London, instead of taking actions against a former mayor who was implicated in the Nelson Mandela funeral scandal, the ANC elevated her to a position in parliament. The UDM says anybody found to have misused money, convicted in a court of law, that he or she has been involved in corrupt practices, that person will go and languish in jail, depending on the sentence or on the offense that he or she may have caused. Jails will be open for all those people who are criminalizing our society. Not what we have seen being presented by the ruling party of elevating people who have been found to have been corrupt. On the issue of economy and the skills empowerment on the part of the youth, as I have said, that the government must do more. There's what we call in the UDM state intervention in the economy, where we train people, pop out money, train people in various fields so that people can be able to exercise the skills they have so as to be able to fight poverty in their own backyard.
Thank you so much.
That's basically what we mean. Don't put the foot around this one.
ATM, Kolobeni.
Thank you very much, Sakina. I had reserved this comment for closing remarks, but unfortunately...
If you want to, we can come to it.
It's fine, I'll go to another
That's
one.
fine.
The Kolobeni people. Okay, look, firstly, let's address this. On Sunday at 10 o'clock, this coming Sunday on the 14th, the Kolobeni community has invited the African Transformation Movement to go and welcome them officially into the boat of the ATM, simply because the ATM stood by the people of Kolobeni when they were being abused, when they have a mineral that comes from their own land, but it must be taken away from them by employing into the potential mining area there to be utilized by an external company. So the ATM is going to be welcoming the Kolobeni people officially into ATM. 5 villages have come together to say they want to affiliate in Kolobeni. That program takes place at 10 o'clock in Esekitini Junior Secondary School.
All right. Moving on to EFF. EFF?
The EFF is against the xenophobic attacks that are taking place in South Africa. We see that there is a hidden hand in the broader diversion politics that characterize South Africa, where the scramble for resources amongst our people, now there is scapegoating of our African brothers in order not to address the questions of unemployment, in order not to address the questions of poverty, in order not to address the questions of underdevelopment. Now our people are turned against each other in the form of xenophobic attacks. As EFF, we are saying that we want to build a united Africa and recognize our African brothers as humans. And on the issue of the East Bank and the Amalinda, you would understand that some of the industries like the Mercedes-Benz South Africa, where it was built, people were evicted from that place. We are saying we want to move away from reconciliation into justice, because MPSA is the factory where hippos were built that were massacred our people in 1985 in Duncan Village, that massacred our people in Bisho, that massacred our people in Bopaitong. So we are saying those companies that benefited from apartheid, that benefited from apartheid legislation, must compensate us. They must restore.
Thank you. PAC?
Very quickly, the notion, Sakina, that education is free is false. It's as false as everything else the ANC says. Education is not free because somebody is paying, and that somebody is the middle class. These people are living on the backs of the middle class, and the ANC does not want to go and take the land and get the wealth of our people to finance education. We say two things. Education should be financed by something, our wealth, not by someone, our taxpayers. The second thing we say is that quality of free education implies to us that education is responsive to the problems of context and the nation. Education is not necessarily meant merely to produce labor force for capitalism. So that's why we say that we have to have a quality education that is socialist also, because by saying it's socialist, we also mean that it is linked with a certain frame of mind, a certain state of mind which lives in the context of unity, sharing, a context of collectivism.
Okay, SRWP.
The better way, Sakina, to fight unemployment is to embark on industrialization and local content. It is important that through the local content, our own people can be able to create jobs. We must also encourage social renewables, where the community members themselves will be participating through the cooperatives. We will be participating through the solar panels that will be created internal here, not from foreign. Then in that way, we can be able, therefore, to create jobs and sustain that jobs, because jobs that are being created are unsustainable. But the ultimate goal is that we must abolish a capitalist system for good and replace that system with a socialism, a socialist South Africa that will be ensuring that the interest of the majority people and the working class are put first. That is the way to go.
All right, and there we have it. We're out of time, but what I'm going to do now, and this is why I'm putting my stopwatch on, I'm going to give each of you 30 seconds to give us your closing remark. DA, you did answer your question about policing. You did. Yeah, okay. Can we just have closing remarks then? And 30 seconds starting with the AIC.
Thank you so much. We are asking the people of South Africa to vote for the AIC, because the AIC will provide you with a government that is not corrupt, will provide you with a government that is responsive, will provide you with a government that has ears and eyes to listen and to your problems. The AIC is a government that will be a government that listens to its people.
Thank you, AIC. Let's move on, ANC. ANC?
Yeah, thank you very much. Look, the African National Congress is a tried and tested organization of the people of South Africa. It's the liberator of the people of South Africa. We have provided free basic water to our people. More than 80% of people have got access to free water. They've got access to sanitation. We've made decent houses to our people. We've made road infrastructure to our people. We've developed economy for our people. We've gave them free medical access, especially pregnant women. We've provided free scholar transport to our learners. We've provided free education to our educators.
ANC.
That's African National
ATM?
Congress.
ATM?
Thank you very much, Sakina. ATM will restore the dignity of the people in South Africa and in Eastern Cape in particular. Government that is corrupt-free and that cares for the people. Build malls that will have multiple use so that the services can be closer to our people, particularly our disadvantaged people in the rural areas and townships. Restore role of the traditional leaders in our countries, where more people are assigned to and more people known exactly according to their clans and their sufferings. Open a dialogue to have in South Africa and South African law.
Thank you, ATM. Moving on, Azapo.
Thank you very much, Sakina. To the people of our country, you have tried them, you have tested them, they have failed. The only alternative is the Azanian People's Organization. We are on the ground in Kolobeni. We are the only organization that has a branch. We're not going to launch. Our biggest branch is in Kolobeni. It has more than 500 members. We remembered Bazooka on the 21st. Our president was there. We are working with the people of Kolobeni. We want King Dalingebo released. We want to add on that note.
Thank you.
This government
That's
has been
your time.
releasing all sorts of criminals.
DA will fight corruption, an honest and professional police, fair access to job, a job in each and every home, secure our borders, speed up service delivery. When we wake up on the 8th of May, there will be a new government in South Africa that will be a DA government.
All right. DA not needing all of the time. All right, let's move on. EFF, Mr.
Sakina, we cannot postpone the true liberation of our people from economic apartheid. We were not part of the 1994 Elite Pact. We are a new generation that has discovered its mission. We refuse to be silenced with so-called rainbowism. We want justice now. We want our land now. We want jobs now. We demand the economy now. Vote for the EFF for the restoration of the dignity of the black people. The EFF will give you your land, it will give you jobs.
That's your time. Ladies and gentlemen, we have about a minute and a half to go. We showed respect to your speakers. Please, can you show the same courtesy to the others as they finish? PAC.
The PAC has never changed its mind about the question of land. For 60 years now, we have maintained that the land should return. All other political parties have postponed this question. But now it has become opportunistic for them and right for them to gain votes. We tell the people of South Africa that even if the elections come and go, as long as the ruling party is still in power, the land is not going to return. Secondly, we tell the people that corruption itself, the essence of which is capitalism, needs to be rooted out at the point at which it starts existing. Finally,
That's
we say...
Thank you, PAC. SRWP.
Socialist Revolutionary Workers' Party says on the 8th of May, the people must go out in numbers and vote for the SRWP because the people of South Africa are sick and tired of the system where the few elite are dying of overeating when majority of the working class are dying of hunger and sleeping without eating anything. So vote for the SRWP so that we can replace the capitalist system with the socialism.
UDM?
We are making a carry-on call to all the people of South Africa that on the 8th of May they should go out in their numbers and show their anger against a government that for 25 years has not delivered jobs, has not boosted the economy, has failed to fight crime, and vote for a party that will bring about clean government, which is the United Democratic Movement. Vote UTM on the 8th of May. Vote UTM.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to our panelists. Really appreciate that you cooperated so well with us this afternoon, and to the crowd for the most part. Thank you so much. And that is how we ended here. SAFM coming to you live, the update at noon from the Orient Theatre in East London in the Buffalo City Municipality in the Eastern Cape.